Hey love, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Pauline. If you are new here, on this channel we talk about locks, beauty, and wellness. And today's topic, we are talking about 5 different things or techniques that will loosen your curl pattern and as a result affect the outcome of your locks. So let's get into it. Number one of the things that will loosen your curl pattern, especially if done over time repeatedly, is blow drying your hair. And there are different types of technique to blow drying the hair, but some of the techniques are Dominican blowout, all those things, or any type of blowing out your hair or blow drying will loosen your curl pattern if it's done over a period of time consistently. Now, texture does make a difference. So if you have a more coarse texture, you may be able to blow dry your hair often and your curls will still revert. But someone with finer hair, already a loose curl pattern, blowing out your hair, especially with high heat, will loosen your curl pattern over time. And people don't realize that blow drying your hair, adding that heat to your hair, does affect the overall texture of your hair, causing the curls to loosen, so your curls aren't as tight as it was previously. So that's something I like to make people aware of, because people don't think that blow drying the hair will loosen your curl pattern depending on the type of texture you have. This may not apply to everybody, but for some people, yes, it will loosen your curls and will affect the outcome of how your locks will look in the long run, and we'll talk about that later. But if you're blow drying your hair on low heat and you're doing it periodically here and there, that's okay. But you have some people, when they go to blow dry, it's on high heat and you're doing small sections. And I'm talking that blow drying that you do to get it real straight, because you can literally get your hair straight just by blow drying. If you're just rough drying to dry your hair, I'm not talking about that type of blow drying. I'm talking about the blow drying that you do to straighten your hair. Like, I've been to the Dominican once to get my hair pressed straightened when I was loose natural. And honey, that blow drying technique, they get your hair bone straight. And I don't even think I finished the service because the heat was so hot on my scalp that I was like, you guys can stop, because I was sweating bullets. The heat was so hot, my scalp was burning, and I just couldn't handle it. So I'm thinking, for people who do this blowout session every week or every 2 weeks, the amount of heat that you're applying to your hair, yes, you're going to have heat damage over time. And I've known people who have gotten their hair, straightened by the Dominicans, and it's nice and flowy and silky. It's beautiful. But over time, their hair have broken off. It's just very damaging. So when you do that consistently, you are going to have heat damage, and that will affect the outcome of your locks when you do lock. Number 2, pressing your hair or flat ironing your hair. That will cause heat damage, not on all textures and not with, everyone's hair, but depending on the technique that is used. When you're working with a professional, they know how many passes to do that won't damage your hair, and your hair will, revert back to its natural curl pattern. But some people don't know how to press hair. Some people don't know how to, use the flat iron. They're using too much heat. The temperature is too high, because different hair textures requires different heat levels. So when you're dealing with fine hair and you're applying heat that is more, for someone with a coarse hair, you're going to damage that hair. So pressing the hair, you will have heat damage. And there are a lot of people I say, oh, do you press your hair? Oh, I pressed it once and it's just been like this ever since. Yes, you can have your hair pressed once and still have heat damage if it wasn't done properly. I remember I was in one of my best friend's wedding, and I was natural at the time. So she wanted everyone's hair to be the same. And so the person that was doing our hair, she was doing a sew-in, and on the top you had a leave out. So baby, hey, she pressed my hair with a hot comb. When I tell you, that thing was straight all night. And this was in Miami, Florida. When you press your hair, you know, if you're not using that high of heat or whatever, when you press your hair, it reverts, right? And I don't know if y'all heard about my story about my wedding, but that thing reverts because of the heat and the humidity. It reverts. That night, after getting my hair done for the wedding, the top did not revert at all. It did not shrink. It was, I took the hairstyle out later, and literally everything that was braided underneath the sew-in was, my curl pattern was there, but that leave out, it was straight. It just hang over my afro. So that hair, when I say did not revert back at all, it literally stayed straight. The only thing that was curly was the new growth that was coming in. So when I locked my hair, the locks were, locks on the top were straight. And we did lock it from tip all the way to the tip. So the locks was just straight. So you know how when you wash your, shampoo your hair and your locks will shrink, you know, and get fluffy? That did not happen with the straight part. So it was pressed once and that never reverts. So depending on the amount of heat you're using based on the texture of your hair, you can end up with permanent heat damage and that hair will not revert back. I know some people say, well, I didn't relax my hair. I don't press it often. I pressed it like a year ago. If you did not cut that part that was damaged, that straight hair is still there. So you're just gonna have the new growth and then the straight hair. So yes, heat damage with pressing. If you're going to someone who do not know how to press hair and they just know to apply heat to get your hair as straight as possible, you will have heat damage and that will affect the outcome of your locks. The third thing or process that people will do that will loosen your curl pattern is doing keratin treatments. So I'm a cosmetologist and people always say, oh, keratin treatments are, it doesn't loosen your curl pattern. It's not damaging to your hair. It's this, is that. From my experience, I've never done a keratin treatment, but everyone who has come to me to get their hair locked that have had keratin treatment, their hair is, the curl pattern is not the same. It has straightened some, I mean, literally, it's straight hair. It might not be bone straight, but it's wavy because it loosened the curl pattern. So it will affect the texture of your hair. Keratin treatments and all those other protein treatments that is meant to loosen your hair, loosen your curls for just that time. And they say when you wash it, it will revert back. Baby, it doesn't. It does not revert back. And I don't know if you're doing it once will revert back or if you do it often, it won't revert back. I don't have too much experience with it, but for the people I've known that have done it, their curls did not revert. Now, there are different types of keratin treatments and those straightening treatments. And so some may not be as strong as others. I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's something to be mindful about when you're thinking about getting locks. And you're like, why isn't my hair locking like the back or like the others or like someone else's hair? So think about those options, well, that as well, because that will affect the outcome of your locks. Right, the fourth thing to consider that will loosen your curl pattern is texturizers. I know most of you guys know, like, yeah, duh. Of course, the texturizer will loosen your curl pattern. Some people don't know. Some people don't know that. So they think just because I'm not getting a perm or a relaxer that I can put a texturizer in and it will just loosen it temporarily and then it will go back. The texturizer loosen your curl pattern and it does not revert. Yes, so that is something to be mindful of. Texturizer, it's a chemical, so it is going to loosen that curl pattern and you won't have your previous curls that you had before. Fifth thing that will loosen your curl pattern is color. So now, if you're doing like a rinse, a demi color, or even a permanent but like a dark color that does not require any lifting, that doesn't require a high volume or not volume developer, then you're safe. You're okay because you don't have to worry about it messing up the texture, your curl pattern. But if you're doing any type of color where you're using a level 7 and above, or you're bleaching or lightening or lifting the hair, that will loosen your curl pattern and will affect the outcome of your locks. And there's nothing wrong with your curl pattern being, with you having a looser curl pattern. It's just be mindful that it will affect the outcome of your lock. Because I know some people are like, why my hair isn't locking? The back lock, but the front is just doing something completely different. It's taking its time. All of that will affect how your locks look, how your locks lock, how quickly it locks, what it would look like. So it affects all of that. So that's just something I want you guys to be mindful of. For those of you who are considering locking your hair, and for those of you who have already locked your hair, but you're wondering why my hair is doing this and why my hair look like this. So overall, when you use those things that loosen your curl pattern, the result of your locks will be that the hair is straight like that, or when you have really heat damaged hair, that area or that part of your locks just don't lock. For some people, once again, it depends on your texture. It depends, you know, do you have low porosity hair or high porosity hair? You know, it depends on the cuticles. So all of that comes into play. So this is general information, but some people's hair will not lock. When I had my heat damage from that leave out, just that one press, my hair was straight and never reverted back to curls. That part of my hair never locked. So that was the result of that it never, everything else locked. That part stayed straight. It never locked. I can't tell you what the outcome would have been, because 5 or 6 years into my lock journey, I cut my hair shorter. So I don't have that heat damage part in my locks anymore, because it's been cut off. But I was locked for 6 years before I did my first cut into a bob, because my hair was like down here, down here, bra strap length. And my hair, when I locked my hair, I started like right here. I started with like 6 to 7 inches. So 5, 6 years down the road, it was bra strap length. So I cut it into a bob. So all that heat damage part got cut off. But in that 5 to 6 years, that heat damage part never locked, never bud. I did not get a bud at the end, never locked. So that's one of the outcomes. And that may or may not be your case. Like I said, texture and the state of your hair will determine whether it will lock or not, but that's what happened with my hair. Another thing that you can consider will result in straighter hair is your hair will not go through that locking process or transition that it goes through. You know how your hair goes through different stages? That part of your hair will not swell like the other areas of your hair, or like someone with curls or a tight curl pattern. Your hair will not swell. So that lock will not swell. There will be no budding. It will not, you won't have a lot of shrinkage if you, you won't have any shrinkage because it's straight. There's nothing to shrink to. You may not experience any matting if you keep it in protective style. So those are typically the results of straight loosened curl or heat damaged hair. That's what pretty much you can expect. Once again, all of this is based on the severity of the heat damage or what the product or process causes to your hair. So everyone may have a different experience based on between whether you've experienced 1 through 5 or whatever it is, your hair type, the texture you started off from the beginning, do you have raised cuticles? All of that is determined on your curls, the process, and all of that. So solution for what you can do if you have heat damaged hair or really loose curl pattern and is drastically different from your other curls or whatever. What you can do when you lock your hair, you can lock the entire strand. If you lock the entire, you don't have to, it's optional, but if you lock the entire strand, putting it in protective styles will help. If you're trying to figure out, oh, what do you mean by protective styles? Go and watch a protective style video. Go and watch that video. So put it in protective styles to help it from bunching, or go watch that bunching video, how it shrivels. With a looser curl pattern, it just bunches differently than someone with a tighter curl pattern. So I have a video on bunching as well. So go watch that. So When you lock the entire strand, you may or may not have bunching. And if you do, not everyone will have bunching, but you may or may not have bunching. And it depends if you do protective style or not. And it also depends on the texture that you're working with already. If you have raised cuticles or not raised cuticles and all that stuff. So, and also the locking pattern or technique that you use. So that's something to be consider, okay? And when you lock it all the way to the end, like I mentioned before, it won't swell, it won't go through the locking phases, but it will still be cute, okay? So don't stress if you feel like, oh my God, I'm starting off with two different textures. The new growth that's coming in is my actual texture, but the ends, it's a different texture. Just curl your hair. That's one of the best things for people who lock their hair all the way to the end, but it won't swell, it won't give it any body. Do bantu knots, do braid outs, do twist outs, do rod sets. All of that will give your hair life and body, and it's gorgeous, okay? So don't stress if that is your situation, okay? The other solution is just locking the new growth and leaving the straight part out. Now, if you decide to lose the straight part out, be prepared for a little bit more work with that, okay? Because you're going to have two textures working against each other, and since that loose part isn't locked, it's so easy for, as the kinky part or the curly part of your hair, or your natural curl, the natural part of your hair, as it starts to lock and draw up, it wants to pull on those individual strands that is loose, so it has no resistance from the locking all the way to the end. So it wants to pull, and as it tries to pull, it gives you that butterfly look lock. It gives you that, I don't know, go watch my bunching video because I have lots of examples on there, but it just does not lock smoothly, okay? So to avoid, if you're gonna lock and you're just going to lock the new growth and leave the straight part out, protective style is your best friend. So you're going to wear protective styles until it gets to a place where it's stable. But even then, keep wearing protective style. You're going to have to band. Even if the lock part is locked, the straight part is out, you're still going to have to band that straight part. So during the shampooing process, it does not shrivel up, bunch up, and create madness for you. So continue to band, continue to wear protective styles to help you with that process. And over time, when your hair gets to a length that you're comfortable with, you can start trimming at that straight part, snipping away until you get to all locked parts, okay? So either way, however you decide to go, don't stress. Just, there are options. It's just if you have to loose a part, it's a little bit more work for you. But it is still cute if you have that loose. Just think about micro braids. You know when we used to do micro braids in the past, and back in the days, I don't know if they still do it now, but you braid about 2 inches or 3 inches and the rest is just loose hair and it's curly. Just curl it, okay? Make it cute. I've had plenty of clients who locked and they had the straight part because if they started with a relaxer or a heat damage or whatever, they lock the new growth, the straight part is out, but they keep it curled. Once again, bantu knots, rod sets, braid outs, all of that stuff is cute, okay, for your hair, and you can rock it, and everyone's gonna be like, oh girl, I love your locks, oh girl, that's so pretty, not knowing the amount of work you put into it to keep it looking like that, okay? So, yes, don't fret. There are ways to manage it, and that's pretty much it. So we talked about the 5 things that will loosen your hair, talked about what the results of how it will look, and then we talked about solutions. So I hope I answered all your questions. I hope you feel confident about your locks and that you're ready to rock your locks and that you're all good. So if you have any questions, please link them below. Let me know, did you start off, did you have any of those, did you experience any of that loose, damage, heat issue with your hair that I went through? Let me know. I want to say, if you have that different, especially if you have the different textures working against each other, because the back is nice and it's own texture, it's doing its thing, and the top isn't, curls will disguise the 2 different look perfectly, okay? So just curl it. But if you have any questions, link it, put it in the comments and let's talk about it. I love to read comments. So please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you are enjoying my videos. I have other videos that you can watch that are just as informative. Please make sure you give my video a thumbs up, like it, okay? And don't forget to share. Sharing is caring, and trust me, there are people out there that are looking for solutions, and the last thing I would want people to do is get frustrated with their locks and cut it off. We don't want that, okay? I am here for you, so please share. Share on your social media, share on your groups that you follow, the lock groups and stuff like that, because there are people out there that are stressing and struggling and just need an answer, and you might never know. You can help somebody save their locks, okay? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.